Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Brian H. Blackson Jr., founder, creator, and author and writer of Venus Orion Comics. And today I wanted to go over the phase 1 of my indie comic book universe. Now that I've gained a bunch of new followers and subscribers here on this channel, and I've met quite a few of you guys at plenty of conventions this year as I went on tour, and I really love the enthusiasm and the interest that you have in Venus Orion Comics. So I thought it'd be a perfect time to go over the groundwork or give you a crash course of what phase 1 is. So let us dive right into this video. So what is phase 1 of Venus Orion Comics? Well, in this universe, phase 1 is known as the foundation. Yes, the foundation of my universe, and this is why it's called the foundation. For the simple fact is, it takes 8 interconnected stories, and it pretty much gives you the groundwork or the mechanics of my universe, starting with the first comic book series that we just launched this year, when Venus Orion Comics itself had launched earlier this year in January, which is Verion Keller's Vampire Killers. Yes, you can also call it VK for short, but this is the first comic book series in phase 1 that kicks off the Venus Orion Comics universe. So if you're looking to really get into the Venus Orion Comics universe, then it's the right time to get into it, because this is the first and only comic that we released thus far. So as I said before, the 8 characters that you see on the banner that I have for phase 1, the foundation, pretty much represent the 8 different comic book series for phase 1. So you have Hezekiah Draven from VK, Verion Keller's Vampire Killers, and essentially this first book introduces the Shadow World, which is pretty much the supernatural aspect of my universe. And we'll definitely get into a separate video of what is VK, and I'll give you a breakdown and a crash course to pretty much give you an idea of what to expect from Verion Keller's Vampire Killers. But yes, that pretty much opens up the Shadow World aspect of my universe. And you don't understand how excited I am about this entire universe, because the scope, the range, the many different characters that you get a chance to actually be able to dive into and explore, that's coming up here in this universe, and I can't get it here fast enough. But the whole point of phase 1 is for you to get pretty much an understanding of what to expect from this universe. Now, the thing that I want to approach with phase 1 is that yes, there will be 8 different comic book series, and yes, they're interconnected in a way where characters eventually will cross over and meet one another. But the thing about phase 1 is that you will be able to dive into any story in any particular order that you want. You don't have to have knowledge of Ultra Squad X to understand the Die-Star Champion Siona, or Neo Suit Johnny to understand the Great Samaritan. You don't need to know any of that knowledge of other comic book series within phase 1 to understand the book that you're currently reading, because they are all self-contained stories that you'll be able to follow at your own pace. But despite them being self-contained, they run parallel to one another and even have nods to one another. But you don't have to understand one to understand the other, and that's the great thing about it. So if you want to dive in when we officially or finally release the other comic book series within phase 1, you can do so. But the important aspect of phase 1 and many other phases, because I do have other phases planned, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the great thing about these phases is the fact is that reading one book and reading either of the books contribute to a much larger narrative. So if you're reading the Neo Suit Johnny or Codename Viper and Cobra, despite you not reading one of the other books, is contributing to a larger narrative. So you guys can even come together and have a conversation despite you reading 2 different comic book series, and y'all can still have a discussion and talk about elements, from that book that adds to the larger narrative. So if you're a fanatic and want to get all the books, that's even greater, because now you even have an even bigger picture of the universe. And I think the fun part about this is the mystery behind my universe, how it was created, what's the powers that be that's behind it. So that's the awesome part about it, and I can't wait for you guys to be able to dive into it and be able to figure out things that I have. And yes, when it comes to phase 1, or when it comes to the universe itself, there will be a comprehensive timeline, so you know where everything fits. But essentially, phase 1 starts in the year 2025. So you guys can have an understanding. Yes, it starts in the year 2025. Everything begins there. And of course, I will have stories that happen before 2025, which I can't wait to explore those stories as well. So there is a starting point of where all this stuff begins to transpire, and how everything begins to slowly but surely connect with one another. And the fun part about it is that once you see these guys or see these characters come together, I can't wait to see the theories that you have, or what character is stronger than who, and what character, will be, I guess, great couples with one another. So it's going to be awesome to see how all this play out, and I can't wait for you guys to just come along for the ride. And if you guys are serious, or you guys want to support Venus Orion Comics in phase 1, it's very simple. I have a newsletter as well. And with the newsletter, you guys will be able to get news and updates of the upcoming books that I have in the works, or anything related to the website as well, because we are working on Verion Keller's Vampire Killers Chapter 2 right now. And then we'll be working on Alter Squad X Chapter 1. And I can't wait to get the rest of these Chapter 1s out. And that's the plan for this. Once every last Chapter 1 is out, we'll be able to move to phase 2 of the Venus Orion Comics Universe. And just to let you guys know, or get like a little tidbit of what to expect with phase 2, is yes, going to outer space. We go into the cosmic aspect of my universe, and I already have some snippets and previews of characters that will be introduced in phase 2, but we'll elaborate on more of that as we get a little bit farther into phase 1. So stay tuned for that. But that pretty much wraps up everything to know that you need to know about phase 1. And for the fact is that, as I said before, there are 8 connected comic book series, and you do not need to understand one to understand the other. They all run parallel to each other, but the stories are self-contained, so you can start at any point that you want. And we only have one comic that launched so far that kicked off the universe, which is Verion Keller's Vampire Killers. So if you're looking to get into an indie comic book universe at the very beginning, so you won't get all lost in everything, walking into it, all these different comic book series, now is the best time to get into it. You can go to my website at www.venusorioncomics.com. You can buy the physical comic, or you can get the digital comic for only $5. Yes, the digital comic is just as important. So if you want a quick and easy entry level into the Venus Orion Comics shared universe, definitely go for the digital comic for only $5. Start with Verion Keller's Vampire Killers VK Chapter 1. And hopefully I'll see you guys soon, and stay tuned for the next video where we actually go into the groundwork, into introduction of Verion Keller's Vampire Killers Chapter 1 in the series itself. So that pretty much wraps this up. If you have any questions, definitely leave in the comment section below, or you can email me at venusorioncomics at gmail.com if you have any questions. And that pretty much wraps it up. This is Brian H. Blackson Jr., and I am signing off.